The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, a relentless drone that drilled into my skull. My desk was a war zone, piles of invoices and contracts sprawled across it, each one a tiny tyrant demanding my signature. I was halfway through scrawling my name on a soul-crushing expense report when my phone jolted to life, buzzing hard against the wood. My pulse skipped. Maggie's name glowed on the screen. My mother-in-law didn't call during work hours unless the sky was falling. I swiped it open, pressing the cool glass to my ear. "Ray, you won't believe what I saw," she blurted, her voice a tight wire of excitement and shock. I could hear her sandals slapping the floor. Picture her pacing, glasses sliding down her nose. I leaned back, the chair groaning under me. "Maggie, what's wrong? You okay?" I was at the mall, grabbing baby stuff for my grandson, your kid Rand. There she was, Ruth, with some guy. And it wasn't you. My pen froze mid-stroke, ink bleeding into the paper. Ruth, my wife, 9 months pregnant with our son, strolling around with another man? The words slammed into me, a fist to the gut. Wait, what? My tongue tripped over itself. "You sure it was her?" "Of course I'm sure," Maggie's voice snapped like a whip. "I know my own daughter. This guy, he was skinny, Ray, all angles. Not built like you. I thought, maybe a date? But then it hit me, holy hell, that's not my son-in-law." Her breath rasped through the line, fury crackling. My stomach twisted, sour bile creeping up. Work had buried me late nights, early mornings, but this? Betrayal wasn't a word I'd ever tied to Ruth. "Maggie, hold on," I said, forcing calm into my tone. "Maybe he's just a friend. Did you see anything weird?" "They were laughing, Ray," she shot back, giggling like teenagers. Then they ducked into some ritzy boutique. I didn't tail them, didn't want a scene, but it felt off, way off. I pinched the bridge of my nose, a dull ache blooming behind my eyes. "Let's not panic, could be innocent." "Innocent?" She barked a laugh. "What's innocent about sneaking around while you're slaving away for her and that baby?" The jab landed hard. Overtime had been my life lately, stacking cash for the kid. If Ruth was using that time to God, I couldn't even think it. "I'll talk to her," I said. "Get her side." "No," Maggie's shout made me flinch. "She'll lie, Ray. You need proof. Hard evidence." I exhaled, the weight sinking into my bones. "How?" "Leave it to me," she said, a sly edge creeping in. "I'm her mom. I can dig without her suspecting a thing." "Maggie, trust me. If she's cheating, I'll know. If not, no harm done. You deserve the truth." I nodded, unseen. "Just be careful." She chuckled, dark and determined. "Oh, I've got this." The call ended. I stared at the phone, the office shrinking around me. Ruth with some skinny guy laughing. Was it true? Did I even want to know? I pulled into Maggie's gravel driveway, the crunch of tires breaking the late afternoon quiet. Her bungalow sat on the edge of town, wind chimes jingling faintly from the porch, flower pots spilling over with marigolds. Today, it looked less like a home and more like a command center. I cut the engine, hands lingering on the wheel, my stomach twisting. The sun dipped low, shadows stretching across the dashboard. I hadn't slept right since Maggie's call, Ruth's smiles. Her hand on her belly, all felt like question marks now. The front door flew open before I could knock. Maggie stood there, gray hair in a wild bun, glasses slipping down her nose. She'd thrown on a ratty trench coat. The belt knotted crookedly. "Ray, inside, now. We've got work." Her voice snapped like a whip. I stepped into the living room, hit by a wave of cluttered magazines stacked on the coffee table, yarn spilling off the couch. Maggie darted to a desk in the corner, digging through drawers like a woman possessed. "Work?" I said, shutting the door. "What are you doing?" She whirled, clutching a notebook and pen like trophies. "Preparing, Ray. If Ruth's sneaking around, we need evidence. Hard proof." Her eyes glinted with purpose. I rubbed my neck, tension coiling tight. Maybe we're jumping the gun. Could have been a coworker at the mall, not, Maggie's stare sharpened. "A coworker? Giggling like that? Come on." She jabbed a finger at me. "You're scared to face it, but burying your head won't fix this." She was right, and it stung. I dropped onto the couch, springs creaking. So, what's your big plan? She plunked down beside me, flipping open the notebook. Surveillance. I'll tail her when she leaves. See where she goes, who she's meeting. You? I raised an eyebrow. On foot? No, smartass. She smirked. My bike's in the garage. Silent. Subtle. I pictured her pedaling after Ruth's car, trench coat flapping. A laugh almost escaped, but it choked on the dread in my throat. And if she's with him, I'll get it on record photos, video, whatever works. Then we hit her with it. Maggie's jaw tightened, her voice steel. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, staring at the worn rug. I don't know if I can do this, Maggie. If it's real, if she's cheating? Her tone softened. She squeezed my shoulder. It's brutal, Ray, but you need the truth. For you, for that kid. My chest ached at the thought of my son caught in this mess. I nodded, throat tight. Okay, just don't get spotted. She grinned, a spark in her eye. Me? I'm a ghost. A ghost in that getup? I nodded at her coat and the red sneakers peeking out. It's confidence, not camouflage. She shot back, standing. She paced, tapping her pen. Ruth's doctor's appointments are at 10. I'll wait down the street, follow when she drives off. And if she sees you? She won't. I'll hang back. Maggie adjusted her coat like it was armor. I eyed her trench coat, sneakers, a sun hat she'd grabbed from the closet. Sure, you're a master of disguise. She swatted my arm. Quiet. It's attitude that counts. I smirked despite myself. Maggie's chaos was a lifeline, pulling me through the panic. Fine, but don't go overboard. If it gets dicey, pull back. Overboard? She scoffed. I'm a pro. I stood, snagging my keys off the table. I've got work. Keep me posted? Every move, she said, saluting with her pen. I paused at the door. Thanks, Maggie, for having my back. Her face softened. Family, Ray, always. I stepped outside, the fading light cool on my skin. Driving away, the knot in my chest eased a fraction. Maggie was a loose cannon, but she was mine, and that had to be enough for now. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and grease, the kind of place where the air stuck to you like a second skin. Ray hunched over a chipped mug, the steam long faded, his fingers tracing the rim in restless loops. Outside, the sky hung low and gray, pressing down on the city like a lid. His stomach twisted with every tick of the clock above the counter. Maggie was late, and his mind was a war zone hope slugging it out with dread, each second carving a fresh cut. The bell above the door jangled, and Maggie burst in like a tornado, her trench coat flapping, her face lit with triumph. She clutched her phone like a prize, her eyes blazing. Got it, Ray. Proof. She slid into the booth across from him, slamming the phone on the table with a sharp thud. Ray's heart skipped. He snatched the phone, his hands shaking. The screen flickered to life, and there it was, Ruth and Dave, sitting in this same damn diner, their heads bent close, laughter spilling out. Ruth's voice, bright and unguarded, sliced through the static of the recording. Ray's chest tightened. That laugh, it was hers, the one she used to save for him. Or so he'd believed. He watched, breath trapped in his throat, as Dave leaned in, his hand grazing her arm. They stood, leaving the diner, and the camera followed Maggie's shaky footage, tracking them down the street to a motel, its neon sign buzzing like a bad joke. They slipped inside, the door clicking shut behind them. The video cut off. Ray stared at the blank screen, his pulse hammering in his ears. It was real. It was happening. Maggie's voice cut through the fog. That's her, Ray. And him. Dave, right? Your old coworker. Ray nodded, his throat clamped shut. Dave's smug grin flashed in his head, the way he'd always lingered too long around Ruth at office parties. How had he missed it? How had he been so stupid? Maggie leaned forward, her gaze fierce. You need to confront her. Now. Ray's mind spun, a mess of rage and disbelief. He wanted to scream, to smash the mug in his hand, to storm out and find Ruth. But his legs felt like concrete, rooted to the floor. I don't know if I can, he stammered, hating how weak he sounded. Maggie's hand clamped onto his, her grip like steel. You have to. For you. For that baby. She's lying to your face, Ray. You deserve better. Her words hit like a slap, sharp and cold. He met her eyes, saw the fire there, the loyalty. She was right. He couldn't dodge this. He stood, the chair scraping loud against the linoleum. Let's go. Maggie grabbed his arm, her voice urgent. Wait, we need a plan. You can't just storm in blind. He shook her off, jaw tight. I've got a plan. It's called the truth. He shoved the door open, the bell clanging as he stepped out. The cool air slammed into him, but he didn't stop. Maggie hustled after him, her sneakers slapping the pavement. Ray, slow down, she called, but he was already halfway to the truck, his keys digging into his palm. The neon sign above the diner hummed mockingly as he yanked the door open and climbed in. Maggie slid into the passenger's seat, breathless. He turned the key, the engine, growling awake. Where is she? He demanded. Maggie hesitated, then sighed. She's at home. But Ray... No buts. He gripped the wheel, knuckles white. I'm done waiting. The truck peeled out of the lot, tires squealing. The city streaked by, but all Ray saw was Ruth's face, her laugh ringing in his skull, and Dave's arm brushing hers. His marriage, his life, it was all a lie, and he was about to rip it apart. Maggie stood outside the motel, the wind tugging at her trench coat, the flickering neon sign overhead painting her face in shades of pink and green. The air carried the sharp tang of gasoline and stale cigarette smoky a dump where secrets went to rot. Her phone burned a hole in her pocket. The video of Ruth and Dave looped in her mind like a bad movie she couldn't pause. Linda, her friend at the front desk, had given her the heads up. Dave was holed up in room 12, waiting for Ruth like it was just another Tuesday. Her pulse hammered, a wild mix of rage and purpose. Maggie had spent her life stitching up Mrs. Ruth's messes, mostly, but this was different. This was a live wire, sparking and dangerous. She adjusted her sun hat, a goofy touch that somehow steadied her, and stormed toward the entrance. The lobby was a cave of dim light and peeling wallpaper, the carpet clinging to her sneakers with every step. Linda flicked her eyes up from the counter, tipping her head toward the hall. Maggie didn't slow down. Her breath came quick and shallow as she reached room 12. No knocking, no hesitation. She twisted the knob, kicked the door open, and there he was. Dave, lounging on the bed, thumbing through his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. He jolted upright, his jaw dropping. What the? Get up, Maggie barked, her voice slicing through the stale air. Now. Dave fumbled to his feet, his shirt hanging open, buttons half done. Who are you? Ruth's mom, she said, closing the gap between them, her fingers stabbing at his chest. And your little game's over. His mouth flapped, words failing him. Maggie seized his arm, her grip like a vice, and hauled him toward the door. We're going. Move. Hospital? Dave stammered, stumbling as she dragged him into the hall. What? Ruth's in labor, Maggie cut in, her tone cold as steel. Called me right after I caught you on tape. Dave went pale, his knees buckling for a split second. Labor? Now? Yep, perfect timing, right? She shoved him forward, ignoring his muttered protests. Her coat snagged on the doorframe, but she ripped it free, her focus razor sharp. Across town, Ray paced his cramped apartment, the floor groaning under his heavy steps, the walls pressed in, the silence suffocating. His phone sat on the coffee table, a loaded gun he couldn't bring himself to touch. He told Maggie to keep him in the loop, but every second without news tightened the knot in his gut. He dropped onto the couch, elbows on his knees, hands raking through his hair. Ruth's voice from the video haunted him, her laugh, so casual, so damning. How long had she been lying? How blind had he been? Anger churned with a sick ache he couldn't name. He wanted to believe there was some mistake, some way out. But the truth was a brick wall he'd slammed into head first. The phone buzzed, jolting him upright. Maggie's name glowed on the screen. He snatched it up, his voice rough. What's going on? Got him, Maggie said, her words clipped and breathless. Dave yanked him out of the motel. Ruth's water broke. We're heading to the hospital. Ray's heart lurched. She's having the baby? Yeah, and this idiot's coming along for the ride, Maggie said. Get over here, we're settling this. Ray stood, his legs shaky, but his resolve hardening. I'm coming. He grabbed his keys, the jagged edges digging into his skin. The night air hit him like a slap as he stepped outside, climbed into his truck, and fired up the engine. It roared, a raw sound that matched the chaos in his chest. He wasn't running anymore. Whatever waited at the hospital, truth, betrayal, or worse, he'd face it head on. The hospital doors parted with a mechanical whoosh, and I stormed through, my boots slamming against the polished linoleum floor. The air hit me hard sharp with the sting of antiseptic, cold and clinical, cutting through the haze of my rage. My heart thudded in my chest, a relentless drumbeat drowning out the faint beeps and murmurs echoing down the maternity ward hallway. Maggie trailed right behind me, her trench coat flapping like a war banner, her fingers clamped around Dave's arm. He staggered along, his face a sickly shade of gray, eyes flicking side to side like a cornered rat. We reached the labor room, and I didn't hesitate. I shoved the door open, the hinges groaning under the force. Ruth was there, sprawled on the bed, her face contorted in pain, sweat pasting her red hair to her forehead like wet strings. A nurse hovered near the monitor, fiddling with dials, but I barely saw her. My gaze zeroed in on Ruth, then darted to the empty chair beside her bed. She'd been alone until this moment. "Ray," she rasped, her voice rough and broken. "You're here." I took a step closer, my fist balled so tight my knuckles ached. "Yeah, I'm here, and I brought friends." I jerked my chin toward the doorway as Maggie hauled Dave inside. Ruth's eyes widened, her breath hitching in her throat. "What, Dave? Mom?" Her head swiveled between us, panic creeping into her expression. Maggie didn't give her a chance to regroup. She let go of Dave. He stumbled back, hitting the wall with a dull thud, and strode to Ruth's bedside like a general marching into battle. "We know, Ruth," she said, her voice low and lethal. "About you and him." Ruth's face crumpled, but she shook her head, defiant even now. "Know what? What are you talking about?" "Don't," I cut in, my voice slicing through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare lie to me. Not now." Maggie pulled her phone from her pocket, her movements precise despite the fire in her eyes. "You think we're blind? I've got evidence." She thrust the screen toward Ruth, the video already rolling. There they were, Ruth and Dave, caught in grainy color, laughing over coffee at the diner, slipping into that dingy motel room, the door clicking shut behind them like a gunshot. Ruth's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her eyes flicked to Dave, who shrank against the wall, his shoulders hunching as if he could disappear into the plaster. "It was just once," Dave blurted, his voice pitching high with desperation. "A mistake, man. We didn't mean." "Once?" Maggie's laugh was a jagged, bitter thing. She swiped to the next video, then the photos, each timestamp a nail in their coffin. 5 times in 2 weeks. That's not a mistake. That's a damn routine." Ruth's face went white, her hands clutching the thin hospital sheet until her knuckles stood out like bones. "Ray, please," she whispered, tears streaking down her cheeks. "It's not what you think. I was lonely. You were always gone, working." "Lonely?" The word ripped out of me, ragged and furious. "I was breaking my back for you, for our son. And you—" My voice cracked, the anger choking me until I could barely breathe. "You threw it all away." The nurse cleared her throat, shifting nervously. "Sir, maybe you should." "Stay out of it," Maggie snapped, her glare pinning the nurse where she stood. She wheeled back to Ruth, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. "You're having his baby, and you're sneaking around with this spineless creep? What the hell were you thinking?" Ruth sobbed, her whole body shaking. "I'm sorry, Ray. I'm so sorry." Dave inched toward the door, sweat beading on his forehead. "Look, man, I didn't mean to." I spun on him, my fist twitching, begging to smash into his jaw. "Shut your mouth. You don't get to talk." He flinched, pressing himself flat against the wall. Maggie stepped between us, her eyes blazing. "You're done, Dave. Get out." He didn't argue. He bolted, the door banging shut behind him, leaving a hollow silence in his wake. All I could hear was Ruth's uneven breathing and the steady beep, beep, beep of the monitor tracking her contractions. I turned back to her, my chest heaving. "Why, Ruth? Why him? Why now?" She met my gaze, her eyes red and swollen. "I don't know. I was scared. The baby, everything, it was too much. Dave was just there." I shook my head, her words carving into me like shards of glass. That's not good enough. You don't get to torch our family because you were scared. Maggie's hand landed on my shoulder, steadying me. Ray, she's in labor. The baby's coming. Right on cue, Ruth cried out, her body arching off the bed as a contraction hit. The nurse sprang into action, checking the monitor. She's crowning, she said, her voice urgent. It's time. The room erupted into chaos after that. Nurses swarmed in, a doctor appeared, barking orders over the clamor, and the air thickened with tension. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my world spinning out of control until Maggie shoved me forward. Go. Be there for your son. I stumbled to the bedside, my hand finding Ruth's. She grabbed it, her nails digging into my skin, but I didn't pull away. That pain was nothing compared to the storm tearing me apart inside. Time-blurred minutes stretching into a warped eternity, each second a war between my fury and the need to see my son. Then, finally, a sharp, piercing wail broke through the haze, the sound of life crashing into the mess we'd made. The doctor lifted him, slick and wriggling, and laid him on Ruth's chest. She sobbed, her arms curling around him, but I couldn't look at her. My eyes were locked on Hemi's son, red-faced and screaming, his tiny fists balled up like he was ready to fight the world. Ray, Ruth whispered, her voice shaking. I'm sorry. Please, don't leave me. I stared at her, the woman I'd built my life with, the mother of my child, and felt nothing but a cold, hollow void. It's over, Ruth. Once he's here, I'm filing for divorce. Her face collapsed, fresh tears spilling, but I turned away. Maggie stood by the door, her eyes soft with understanding. She gave me a small nod, a quiet vow to stand by me. The nurse gently lifted the baby, swaddling him in a blanket. Would you like to hold him, Dad? I swallowed hard, my throat tight as a vice. Yeah, I would. She settled him in my arms, his weight so light it barely registered, yet heavy with everything he meant. His eyes blinked open, unfocused but searching, and something inside me shattered love rushing in, fierce and unyielding, filling the cracks left by betrayal. Maggie stepped closer, her hand resting on my arm. He's beautiful, Ray. I nodded, words failing me. Ruth's sobs faded into the background, the room narrowing to just me and my son. Whatever came next, divorce papers, custody fights, the wreckage of everything I'd known, I'd handle it. For him, the suburban street lay hushed, the kind of neighborhood where secrets weren't supposed to fester. Dave's house loomed at the Colde, Sack's End, its white picket fence gleaming faintly under the streetlights. I parked my truck, hands firm on the wheel, my son's gentle breaths, a steady pulse from the car seat next to me. Maggie rode shotgun, gripping her folder of evidence, her jaw clenched tight. We climbed out, the night air brushing cool against my face, and approached the door. Ruth lagged behind, her footsteps heavy, her expression ghostly pale. I kept my eyes forward, couldn't bear to look at her. Maggie pressed the doorbell, its chime ringing through the house. Shuffling steps neared, and Lisa swung the door open, her forehead creasing as she clocked us. Ray, what's going on? I managed a thin smile. Hey, Lisa, got something you need to see. I tipped my head toward Maggie, who shoved the folder into Lisa's hands. Lisa opened it, eyes flicking over photos, timestamps. Her breath caught, her face turning to stone. Dave, she snapped, voice piercing. Get out here. Dave stumbled into view, shirt wrinkled, eyes skittering like a cornered rat. What's this? You're a mess, Maggie said, her tone cutting clean through. Caught you and Ruth on tape. 5 times in 2 weeks. Lisa's stare whipped to Ruth, who flinched, tears streaming. You? Lisa's voice broke, rage and pain contorting her face. Dave fumbled. It was a mistake, babe. I swear. Save it, Lisa hissed, slamming the folder shut. We're done. I stepped up, voice calm but firm. I'm holding you accountable, Dave. Legally. Expect my lawyer. Ruth sobbed. Ray, please. Let me see him. Tom, quiet till now, moved forward, his glare cold. You lost that right. Ruth's cries thickened the air, but I turned away, cradling my son tighter. Maggie's hand found my arm, her eyes warm. You did good, Ray. I nodded, the weight sinking in. Divorce, custody, the mess ahead, it wasn't over. But for now, I had my boy. That was enough.